This is Express Leads. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Express Leads. I'm your host, Paul Brady, and today we're talking to Dennis Charles and Chris Torres of Presence Training and Coaching. Their business allows them to help other businesses be more effective through doing business in a more optimized way, and they also help you set up, and I'm going to quote you guys, awesome optics and sound while also teaching amazing presentation skills to thrive in the online space. Wow. I'm super excited. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your business. I'm curious because I have a special interest in coaching and it's near and dear to my heart. So why don't you guys give me a little bit of an overview?
All right. So we noticed there was something really strange that started happening in about March 2020. There was like this epidemic of things happening, and it wasn't so much a virus. It was more people getting on Zoom meetings, either for presentations or for meetings, and not presenting themselves in the most professional way. I'm sure you've seen some of the
Oh yeah.
in the video. Yeah, you get some extreme ones, right? The way I describe it is you get the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So what we do is we work with clients, making sure that pretty much every presentation they do goes into the good category. Because in the bad category, you really lose a lot of credibility. And once it goes into the ugly category, man, that's when your business is going to go into the tank. So Chris and I are like any sort of double acts. We're like Thelma and Louise. We're like Abbott and Costello. We're like Hall and Oates. We haven't worked out who Hall is and who Oates is, but Chris is amazing on the technical aspect. And what I love doing is help individuals get really clear on the message they want to get and getting the goals and the outcomes they want from any meeting. So that's my side of it. I don't know about you, Chris. How do you see it?
Yeah, so I mean, we noticed in the very early days, people were Zooming. They were used to in-person meetings, and there's a particular flow on that. You come out of those where you know how you look, you know how you sound, you kind of get a sense of how it went. But then when you move online, there's so many more things to think about on a virtual meeting that people just don't consider about how their sound will come through, what they'll look like, what's going on behind them. We've all seen many Zoom fails where it's something comes in behind and wanders through. So it's just thinking about these things and trying to make your presence online better so you can come across your clients and customers better.
Well, I'll tell you too, Dennis and Chris, it's so obvious now when it really wasn't before. And I run a networking group in the Worcester area. And when we started doing Zoom, it was funny. I started noticing things like, things that you don't notice when you show up in person, like the lighting. The lighting was terrible. I looked like Skeletor on the lighting I had on my thing. It was terrible. I was like, okay, I got to ditch the cheap lamp and get some decent lighting in this room because it just makes a huge difference. And like you said, you get people, the famous, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The famous ugly was, people reportedly, some guy from the BBC, his wife walked behind him naked or something out of the shower and then screamed when she realized she was naked and on, on a news broadcast. So it gets ugly. So what you're talking about, I mean, I can't think of anything more timely. I mean, do you find that it's timing wise with the pandemic and everything else, it's really, come to, forefront these days?
Definitely. I mean, before that, some people would do work remotely, but not a lot. It wasn't something people weren't comfortable with it, and there was no reason to try it. So the pandemic sort of made it so everybody had to try it. And
Right.
Some people were really good at it and some people weren't. And like you said, it's just lighting is now an issue, what's in the frame, how you sound, all of these things which you never had to even consider in an in-person meeting is now going to be completely how you come across. You can come across professional and trustworthy, or you can come across as sort of a hack that's just doesn't have good equipment and just comes across mediocre. So it's all up to you.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys a question too, because I've noticed this, but I think, given what you do, you probably have a better beat on this than I do. It seems to me like do you think that there are some industries? I mean, the pandemic, hopefully, fingers crossed, is hopefully winding down. There are things that are becoming less restricted. People are starting to meet in person again. Do you feel like, however, that even with the pandemic, let's say completely getting completely behind us, do you see some industries that have changed forever in how they're doing this? Do you think there people are going to stick with it?
I think every industry has changed forever. It's a cliche that the genie's out of the bottle, but the genie is really out of the bottle. And for most industries that are doing face-to-face meetings or face-to-face sales calls or face-to-face presentations, that's happening on Zoom much more often. My brother-in-law, you can tell from my accent, I'm not from around here. I'm from Old England, but I make my home in New England. But my brother-in-law over in the UK, he's been sitting in like a 8x8 office for the last 16 months. And his company recalled him and said that he's going to be required to go back to the office at least one day a week from
Right.
September onwards. And this is a guy that would spend 10 to 12 hours in his office, commuting into London. His lifestyle's changed forever. So his ability to be able to present, to sell, to close deals online is huge. And I think we're seeing this across a lot of industries that people are saying that this is so much more effective, it's more convenient, and give people the opportunity to drop their kids off at school, spend some time with their family, maybe walk the dog during the day, or sit in Boston traffic an hour and a half in, an hour and a half back. Most people are probably going to pick that online option. So, yep, I believe the genie is totally out of the bottle.
Yeah.
And cliched as it is, again, the new normal is we're doing so much more meeting in the virtual, in the online space. And Chris and I, really aim to help those companies that have employees that maybe aren't considering some of these things, how they're coming across professionally, how they're being perceived by others, really helping them come across and be the professional presenters that they can probably be if they're doing it face to face. I don't know what your thoughts
Right.
on that are, Chris.
I mean, the efficiency gains doing it remotely are amazing. Uh, Take away the commute from most people's day, and they gain somewhere around 2 hours back, and that is huge. So it's like you didn't have this option before because nobody wanted to try it because they always feared, oh, people will be far less productive if they're doing their job remotely. And then they found when they were forced to do it that people weren't less productive. In some cases, they're more productive and they're
Right.
happier because they have more of their day back.
Oh, I mean, absolutely, without a doubt, true. And it's funny because, speaking of businesses and things changing forever, there was a large insurance company in Worcester. I think there's 500 or 600 people in that building right by the DCU Center in Worcester. And I guess during the height of the pandemic, their lease came up and they said, you know what? Everyone stay home. We're not doing this anymore. And we've proven that you can all work effectively from home. So no more office. We're not gonna re-sign our lease. So they went completely online. And it's funny. And it seems like everyone you run into. I had a conversation with a guy who uh, my wife and I had to do a training. It was a piece of medical equipment they sent us for our son, and we he was a very nice gentleman. Had a lengthy discussion with him, and we went through the training pretty quickly. It was pretty easy, and so we had a little time to chat. And I was like, "So what is your life like now that you're doing this all online?" He says, "Well, actually, it's changed completely. I used to travel. I'd be 20 something days out of a month. He traveled doing these trainings, and literally all he needed to do was sit on a computer and have someone dial in and spend 15 minutes with him. So no more airfare costs, no more hotel costs, no more travel, better work-life balance. I mean, it's crazy how different it is. It really is.
And obviously, it doesn't work for every industry, and there are some, parts of jobs that may require in person, and a lot of times there are some things that are more effective in person. Uh, but
Right.
even if you just sprinkle it in a little bit, it will the cost savings of not having to fly people all over the place for meetings that may not need a personal touch. They can be done perfectly well remotely with the right equipment.
Right.
Plus, you get the added benefit of you don't have to hang around with work colleagues you don't particularly enjoy spending time with and pretending that you want to be with them all day long. Like those like smiles, those things at the water cooler, they're gone now, right? You're not accidentally going to bump into someone on Zoom, or if you do, you're probably doing Zoom wrong.
Or it's an ugly moment.
Yeah, sure, right? Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and it's more and more articles to have come out to say never mind this the Zoom piece of it, just the remote work that companies literally said no, we can't possibly do that, and now they're doing it, and it's like, oh, I guess we can.
yeah. And
You
Zoom's
know,
become the new Google, right? No one does an internet search. Everybody Googles, and nobody does an online meeting anymore. Everybody Zooms. Zoom.
oh, yeah, you're right, like Xerox, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. No
yeah.
one copies, everyone Xeroxes. That was the original one I remember. But yeah, of course, Google and Zoom. You're right, and it's funny you should say that because I didn't even realize I was doing that, Dennis. I did that the other day. I said, are we gonna have a video meeting with this client? I said, yeah, let's just Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. So let me switch gears here for a second, gentlemen, and ask you a marketing related question. So when you're working with clients, what for you guys, right? What is an ideal client for you guys? And if you can explain why they're ideal, that'd be great.
So for us, we look at company size. So anywhere between 5 and 30 employees is our absolute sweet spot. We're just the two of us. We're not going to work with hundreds and hundreds of employees for like in a Fortune 500 company, and probably a mom and pop that are, just keeping the doors open. It's like a one person thing. Maybe we can help them there, but the sweet spot really is that company. They've been established for a little while, and they just need some help with their employees because their employees are brilliant at what they do. They're technically excellent. They know the information inside out. What they do need help with is getting that information across to prospects or clients in a way that the prospect or client is going to take the action that they want. And there are two pieces to it. And I think this is where Chris and I really work extraordinarily well together. I work with clients on setting frames, on sharing stories, telling stories. And Chris will say, hey, you know what? You don't want to be talking to your best client with that camera shoved up your nose and showing them your nose here. What you want to do is invest a few bucks in a camera, set it here, have your light in here. So I know I'm speaking for you, Chris. What do you think you bring to the game?
Well, like you said, we can work with any kind of size company, but that 2 to 30 is the sweet spot where we can work individually with the people who spend their day online. We'll call it. We'll use the Zoom word, even though they may be using something else like Microsoft Teams or WebEx or any of the. There's a lot of different ones out there, but we'll call it Zoom for now. But they might be a small number of people who that's their job is to make presentations to customers or clients. We can work with them individually because everyone comes into this with different levels of knowledge. Some people very comfortable with technology. They just need to be taught the presenting skills that Dennis can give them. How to make the association, get kind of it comfortable. Whereas I can come at it from a technical aspect and say, okay, these are the lighting that you have, the camera and whatnot. But everybody's different. So that's what's really good is that we can work individually and really make someone the best that they can be at presenting.
Right. And I can say from experience that can be a labor intensive process because sometimes and I'll ask you, I'll put the question to you guys. I mean, I've worked with people sometimes where I'll have a complete studio set up to film them, and we might be doing a whiteboard session for this particular place. Might be this one was an economic nonprofit, right? So you might do a whiteboard session and you do the film and you're doing it and it takes 25 minutes. And in the back of your mind, it's like, okay, that was way, way too much. And in the end, to fast forward, to skip all the dramatic parts, when you get to the end, it was really ended up being like I think a 9 or 10 minute video. And the reason is that, some people, depending on their personality types, might be more academic. They might be more professorial. They might be more, or just more wordy, right? Or maybe they don't know how to present, and it comes off tough, and you have to keep redoing it. So what you do is very challenging. You find that you run into situations like that.
At times, but the more we've been doing it and the more companies we've been working with, we realize that it boils down to some really simple fundamentals. And it's, when it comes to the technical piece, it's about getting the visuals right, about getting the audio right, and making sure that you have the equipment in place. So you can dig much deeper there, but once those three are in place, you're going to be pretty good technically. As far as presentation, it's really about setting intention. And the way we have three price levels. We have kind of like an introductory price where we'll do a lot of group work, and that can be cost effective. Maybe not as good as our mid-range level, which is like individual coaching where we do some analysis, and they have access to a video curriculum that we put together. But then we have like a real high-end one for customers and clients that know the true value of why it's so important. And we do custom work for them. And that is labor intensive, but we do price it accordingly because we're pretty good with the pricing piece.
Okay.
And people vary on the type of skills they have. It's really just thinking about these things. It's, not everyone has to go out and buy a top-notch, video camera or a top-notch microphone. They don't need to have a whole setup. It really is just appropriate to what they're doing. They just want to make sure that they sound decent, they look decent, that they think about the things behind them. So their message, whatever they're trying to get across, isn't clouded because when you've been on a meeting and somebody starts freezing, you stop paying attention to what they're saying. Now you're distracted by the technical problems, and technical problems are very distracting. And then all the work that you put into your presentation, the point that you're trying to get across, maybe you were building up to this big revelation that would, close that client, but the hiccups in the technical that you didn't even account for, blow the whole thing out of the water and just, don't give it the impact that it should. So a lot of times it's just thinking about them, thinking about these things, giving people a checklist, going through it with them and saying, here are the elements before you hit the button to go on that meeting. Go down this checklist real quick. And by the end of it, you should be ready to go.
Yeah, Paul, you'll appreciate this being a marketer. Like you can spend tons of time and money marketing and bringing in new clients. A lot of what we do is helping our clients retain their clients. There's this thing, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, called the halo effect. It's kind of halo effect bias. But what it is if you're perceived to be good at one thing, generally people think you're good at other things. So I come from London, England, and there's a guy called David Beckham who was famous for playing soccer 15 or 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they thought because he was great at soccer, he's going to be great in business, he's going to be a great model. And, we have that halo effect. So if you can come across at least very, very competent in your presentations, the perception that your company has is one that your clients are going to think, hey, these people are good people. They're competent in what they do. I'm going to trust their advice. And for me, I would say that, money invested in training and bringing your staff up to a great level is some of the best marketing dollars you can spend.
Yeah. Let me, you got me thinking about something too, Dennis and Chris. So when you're talking about this, the whole idea, or the theme we've been talking about anyways, is doing more online, right? And doing some of this stuff online and helping people with that. Let me ask you about your introductory, which I believe you said was your group, training that you do, right? Talk to me a little bit about, I know that's like an introductory, more affordable offering. How does that work in a group setting? I'm assuming because it's not the mid or high, which are more individualized, one-on-one, customized. I'm assuming that's more of a certain curriculum you go with, and it's kind of a training, and you might have question answer sessions, that kind of stuff. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we have 4 areas of our presence curriculum. One is setting the frame, which Chris is amazing with. It covers the audio, the visual, the lighting, the hardwiring your computer, all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go into like the prior preparation. I'm a big fan that prior preparation prevents a poor performance. This is like how you set up, how you prepare for each meeting or sales presentation. The third one is around setting your intention. It's like really taking the lead in any meeting that you have, establishing goals, setting a frame, keeping the meetings on track, and all that good stuff. And then the final piece of our curriculum is based around really advanced meeting skills. That's like around asking excellent questions, establishing really deep rapport with your prospects or your clients, and having like very specific agreed action plans. That translates really well to the group environment, as long as the group environment are invested. If they're coming along from a company and they feel it's something that they're just going through the motions, like anything else, you're not going to do it.
Right,
You
right.
join the gym, you don't go and ask for your money back after 12 months. The gym didn't work because you only went 3 times. You're only going to get the results from your gym if you're invested. You set a plan, you work hard, you do your reps, you follow the curriculum, and you come out at the
Sure.
end. So, with all of the 3 levels that we offer, companies are going to benefit. But to your point and to your question about the group stuff, that can be incredibly powerful, because when companies see, when you see a colleague making a couple of changes and all of a sudden they look good, there's this little competitive thing that comes in human nature. And they're like, I want to be as good as that. I want to be better than that. I want to be perceived to be better. So the group coaching can work out really well. We've had some good success with some of it.
It's also a great place to start. If you have your employees and you don't really know what level their presenting skills are, a group session where we get together and give best practices, then they can go out and do their thing, and then they can be evaluated. Maybe some will be fine and we'll take that and run with it and have great, quality presentations. Some may need a little help, and then we can come back and work with the ones that, that need that little extra boost. So, the introductory package is just a great place to even just begin.
Okay. The reason I ask is because it seems like there's an opportunity for you to create online courseware or even automated webinars where people can come in. And I don't think it would work at your higher level offerings, the mid and the high ticket offerings, right? But for your group, your introductory group one, it seems like there's an opportunity for you there to turn that into an evergreen offering where you could do that online, have people come in either through an automated webinar format or through courseware, where they come in and it's a membership driven site. They pay for the site, they sign in, they access all the materials each day as a different video. It's released based on how you set it up. Maybe it's as simple as going 1 through 4, setting the frame, proper prep, setting intention, and then advanced meeting skills. All things that could be done. It seems like those can all be done online now in a less interactive format.
Definitely, definitely. It doesn't have to be interactive. Some parts of it need to be. A lot of what Dennis teaches, you need to have that back and forth. But a lot of the technical stuff, we're going to be doing that, producing some videos, have some training courses, and then it's good for our clients to be able to go back and reference it. Sometimes they might just need a refresher on setting up their systems, and we can
Right.
go as in depth on this stuff as it needs to, and on the different areas that and things change technology wise also, which is nice because as new things are available for people to use to enhance their presentations, we can let them know about it and what's out there. So,
Yeah, I mean, I talk to clients a lot about, and even people in my networking group, and prospects. I've often talked to them saying that everyone has domain knowledge, and a lot of people feel like, well, I've got this business, I do this, I couldn't put anything online. It's like everyone can put something online, especially when they have domain knowledge. And so when I hear you guys talking about this, it seems like it's a perfect opportunity to turn around and create something, either like I said, either as an automated webinar or coursework. That you could, if it were evergreen, people coming through a sales funnel, they pay for it, they get access to it, and literally from a technical standpoint, Chris, you're not really doing a whole lot other than addressing. The back end piece of it would be probably when people join like a membership site like that, where they have access to that kind of stuff. You also have them join a private Facebook group, and so a lot of the interaction goes on after each lesson. They come in each day, they interact on the group. You may even give them, I've seen models where people give people homework and assignments, and then they say, hey, put it in the group and tag it with this, and I'll look at the first 5 that do it, and we'll discuss it in the next meeting, that kind of stuff.
definitely, there's so many places you could go with this. The reason we started doing this is obviously, Dennis and I in our own business dealings, we noticed it happening a lot, and we looked around, and there's advice out there, and there's places we can go, but there wasn't really anyone who was putting it all together and saying, here's the technical part, and then here's just the presenting in general. These are lessons that doesn't matter whether you're in person, remote, doesn't matter. They're just good tips to have, looking people in the eye and so forth.
Yeah. Now, you guys, I'm guessing anyways, but you guys don't really have any geographic limitations to where you do business, right?
We can't go to the moon yet. That's why we sent Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. They're scoping it out for us, but we can do the whole of the planet Earth, but we're aiming for the moon like in 2023.
Well, Bezos is looking for volunteers, man.
There we go.
You could do it, Dennis. Come on.
Yeah.
I would go. I'd go for a jaunt with Jeff
I
at the
have
app.
a fear of heights, so I'm not sure. Like astronaut is in my future. So yeah, we're going to send Chris. Chris will go up there and he'll set up the Zoom from the moon.
I am a Star Trek fan, but I don't see myself on planet Vulcan anytime soon. Yeah, great. Okay, that's good because that makes a big difference. Because again, I'm just thinking of this idea of if you're putting this stuff online like that, then you can scale very. I mean, I know you're talking between 5 and 30, right?
Yep.
You could scale to larger companies for certain offerings, much larger companies.
Yeah,
based on something like that.
Great business advice. How much do we owe you for the coaching?
I'm sorry, it's what I do, man.
We love it.
Great, I love it. I love the way you think, Paul.
Yeah, no, I'm very interested in what you do because I find this part, and you're have much more exposure to it than I do. But I like that part of what I do when I deal with clients. I like it when I'm trying to help them and coach them with their business. And of course, yours is, you're doing things that are specific on so many levels that I love it. It's like you turn it into a science that you've identified, the best ways to help people in these regards. So no, I love it. So let me switch gears here for a sec, folks, and ask you this. Prospecting, finding clients, right? Where do you guys go? Where do you typically go online to find clients? And what type of presence do you find helps you do that, or activities find helps you do that?
Presence. I love how you dropped the name in there. Well, you mentioned networking before, and you belong to a networking organization. Do you share the name of it? Are we allowed to share the name of the networking organization we work with?
Sure. It's just a local Worcester organization, Premier Referral Networking Group.
Yeah. So Chris and I are involved in another one which is more global called Business Networking International, BNI.
Right.
And that's where we've got pretty much all of our clients from so far. We both do some consulting for BNI. Chris runs a lot of their trainings for sort of the whole of the Massachusetts area. He's just, he just kind of, I don't know if he stumbled into the role, but when we went online as an organization, everyone turned around and looked at Chris and said, "Chris, you need to solve this." And Chris became the go-to person. And I've been doing a number of trainings over the years for BNI on networking, how to attract your ideal client, how to come across and present professionally. So the whole thing kind of dovetails. So to answer your question, we don't have a great online presence because we do a lot of what used to be called face-to-face networking. Now I guess it's screen-to-screen networking. But we business networking is kind of both of our wheelhouses. So
right.
That's where we get the most of our clients from.
Right. And that's great. I mean, and BNI is good. I mean, I'm very familiar with BNI. I've visited chapters here in Worcester. So I'm in surrounding towns. So I'm familiar with BNI. The networking group I do it's most networking groups that aren't BNI are very similar to BNI, to be honest with you too. Right. So it's the same type of, format and all that.
Right.
But
it's not rocket science. It's really about creating deep relationships where you hit a level of trust and you can introduce great people that you make that introduction and everybody benefits. You benefit from making the introduction, your client benefits, and then the customer benefits. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So I'm a
yeah, absolutely. And so I asked that because let me follow up my last question with this question. How big would you guys say your mailing list is?
Very small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because in a similar way, whenever I always drive my wife crazy with this stuff, but in a similar way, whenever I look at an issue, I always look at it from 360 degrees, especially marketing issues, right? So I'm always trying to figure out the different, in particular engagement, right? So how do I engage prospects? How do I reach prospects? How do I do these things, right? And so when I think about economies of scale, I tend to think about, much, much larger potential and larger audiences, probably much larger than I think I could even probably handle. And I look at that and I say, okay, so for me, I could go to a networking group and yeah, I'll get leads. Like I do get leads from a networking group. But it's funny because I found that just going out in Facebook groups sometimes and posting and answering questions from people, let's say, right? I'm not promoting my business. I'm not doing anything like that. And I did that, and I don't do it nearly as much as I should. But I did that this a couple of months ago, and because I'm actually pretty busy doing actual my work, right? But I did this, and I get two clients in a 2 day period on the off the same Facebook group, just answering questions. And I had one guy answer me and say, you seem like you know a lot about this. Would you be able to help me with this? And I said, well, let's talk and find out. Same exact thing from two guys. And one guy was I'm in, like I said, I'm in Worcester, Mass. One guy was in Alabama, and the other guy was in Brazil or something, right? So the point, I guess the point I'm making, and I know you already understand this because you guys are clearly you're professionals, you understand networking. Um, but I'm just saying that, to expand and go beyond that, having like the old saying is, the money's in the list, right? The mailing list. It's the difference between traffic you own versus traffic you rent. So the types of things you're doing in BNI, yeah, that's traffic you own if you're getting emails from them, right? But I work for one nonprofit that it's not like I think it's exciting, but when you're talking about making money online and things like that, and people are searching Google, economics is not the most popular subject. But I was able to work with this individual, and right now he's a mailing list over 1,000 people, and that was taken from much less of a lead magnet type of scenario where I'm dangling something saying, "Hey, get this great ebook on how to solve the crisis with livable wage." Or something that people are really interested in, or how to save money on college costs. That's a big one, right? Or how to be debt free. That's a big one too. Um, I didn't even do that. I wanted very engaged people for this nonprofit. That's what he wanted. So instead, we had Google Ads point to blog posts, and in the blog post was embedded forms. So what does that mean, and why is that significant? Well, people who come to the blog post don't have to opt in. They can just read the blog post. So imagine now that you get 1,000 people that do that, and there's probably 5 or 6 thousand that didn't, right? Those 1,000 people are really engaged because they didn't have to sign up to read that blog, but they did because they're interested in whatever it is you're talking about. So take that forward and you do something where you're dropping a lead magnet and say, if you want this great lead magnet, you need to see my email, and then you follow up with emails and all that stuff from a marketing perspective, right? You get a much larger mailing list, and then that's where, if you have something online, you can direct people right to your call to action, and it becomes kind of this evergreen process where you're driving people to a lead. That funnel then stacks with the next funnel where you're doing a sale, and you can have that going on all day long.
Yeah.
And I just throw it out there because it seems like I said earlier, it seems like at least with your initial offering, that would be something that, in my opinion, would be something you could put online. Maybe not the whole thing, but you could certainly put a version of it online.
I love it.
Great ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
24/7 money,
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And you obviously, know what you're doing with this marketing stuff. And I'm a big proponent that the content is king in any content market that you're doing to grow your list, and Chris and I are certainly open to that as we go from our smallish list to a list that's going to be much larger by the end of the year. So we're going to steal some of your ideas, Paul. Is that okay?
I want you to. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I love to have these interviews, because I want to try and serve value up to my audience, but I literally want to try and help the businesses I talk to if I can. It's just my 2 cents, and I always tell people, feel free to do what you want to do with it, but it's something that is easy enough to do, and especially with two people like yourselves who are extremely articulate and professional. Even a podcast would be something you guys could do. I mean, you saw the response I got to my podcast, right?
Yeah.
Request.
And we actually recorded our episode 1 today for our
Excellent.
podcast. I think you may have inspired us. So we had fun. We actually recorded a company video for a company we're working with, and put on our shirts and made ourselves look very presentable for the instructional video. And then we kind of unbuttoned our shirts and had some fun sharing the same content in a different way with a podcast audience. So
Perfect.
Podcasts are the perfect medium too. I've become a big fan of those just because, bite-sized chunks of something you're interested in. And there's so many podcasts out there on any topic that people like. They can find a podcast that caters directly to that and get that content. And that's an amazing time. It's an amazing time we live that, individuals can get their message out there. This is no longer the province of, TV stations and radio stations where, you couldn't. There was a time in the 80s where if you had a message you wanted to get it out, you had to go through the established medium. You had no choice.
Oh, yeah.
And now you can be your own medium. You can go out there and put out videos and audio and all sorts of stuff. And by using like Patreon, you can have people who pay for it. It's a crazy time, and I just love what's happening.
Oh, I know. And something new always comes along too. Like Substack's one of my favorites now. That's amazing for paid content, because you can go through and literally you could even have a video podcast, right? And you could make it private, not publicly display the links, and then share it on your Substack, and they take a percentage of it. So you kind of skirt around YouTube's rules about when you can monetize your videos, which are, they used to be easy, but they get more and more challenging.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
for $5 a month. So, and I'll give you an idea. People like Glenn Greenwald or Matt Taibbi from Rolling Stone, people like that, they start their own Substacks. They charge $5 a month per person, and each of them, especially Glenn Greenwald, I think Matt Taibbi, they each have tens of thousands of subscribers. So do the math. That's per month they make that money. So it's just a really interesting time. And to get back to what you said earlier, I think it was you, Dennis, who said that earlier about repurposing content, right? And how, or maybe, I'm sorry, maybe it was you, Chris. I can't remember which one of you guys said it.
It was Chris. Chris is the one with all the great ideas. Follow along.
Well, so that always strikes a chord with me, because I'm always telling people to repurpose content, and it always surprises me when people don't do that, because it's so easy. And you guys are doing it already. So, you said that you're, at least if I understand what you said, Chris, you got stuff and you fixed your ties up, you look good, and it was on video, and then you took that audio and you repurposed it to use it for your podcast, correct?
Yes, it's like the same information. First of all, people learn in different ways. Some people are, visual learners. Some people are audio learners. Some people hear something once and they pick it up. Other people have to hear things a few times in a few different ways. So you take your core content and then you just find different ways of delivering it to your audience that can reach them the way they need to be reached.
Exactly. So it's what I preach all the time. So I love to hear you say that. And it's, in this case, there's some cool tools out there. I was just actually, I was talking to someone this morning about this, but there's a tool called B.Live. It's a platform, actually. And I think it's also a tool. You can download it if you have an iPhone or whatever. But I do it on my computer. And what it allows you to do, it allows you to live stream to Facebook or YouTube. But that's not the amazing piece. The amazing piece is that when you sit there and record something as a Facebook Live, generally speaking, you don't have access to that video except through Facebook. Well, when you use B.Live, it will upload that, and because you're streaming to Facebook, it'll save it on Facebook the way Facebook normally does, as does YouTube, but you still have the video, which means you also have the audio. Mm-hmm. Which means that when you do something for, let's say you do a live stream on Facebook and it's the two of you, because you can set a split screen. B.Live is very cool. You set a split screen, you can both talk to each other and walk someone through something, right? And then when you're done with that, that video is saved on the B.Live platform, and then you can upload it to YouTube. You can upload the audio to your podcast. You can put stuff on Twitter. Unending amounts of repurposing of the content there. So it's very cool.
It is, and the good news is there's so many different formats for things. Some people will watch YouTube, some people will watch things on Facebook. There's a lot. You can find anything out there, but if you're producing content, the real challenge is to get your content out on as many of those platforms as possible. So anything like that amalgamates it, makes it easier to do that, is like worth its weight in gold.
Exactly, exactly. And I'll just throw one additional, two additional questions. So, um, one thing I would say after listening to you both is that if you are, if you build your presence even just a little bit on social media, and so, for instance, Facebook, right? Everyone has most people have a Facebook account, right? So, but if you go ahead and there's two pieces of it, right? You have your own Facebook page, and maybe you have your own Facebook group, which could be private, maybe for clients only, like we were talking about earlier, for a community, or however you want to use it. Um, but the other thing is that people forget to do a lot is join other people's Facebook groups.
Yes.
That's so vital because, and you get it, Chris. I can tell because you go out there, and this is where I ask the questions. And by the way, this is where I got lots of people to take me up on my request for interviews, because I didn't just post it on the Massachusetts Business Connection. I posted it on every Massachusetts, where it was appropriate, of course, Facebook group, and I got people answering me from there as well. So I quadrupled easily the audience size just by doing that.
Yeah, being active in the community that you want to reach, and then people are used to your contributions, and they see value in it, and then that naturally takes them to look into what else you offer. It's just human nature, right? If we read someone on Substack and we read a few of their things, that's going to make us look for them in the future.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that very thing happened to me the other day. I was in a Facebook group. It's a private group for an online. I'm a member of an online. I think it's called Success Connection. It's a marketing thing, and tips and tools and all this kind of stuff. I like it. It's the guy that runs it's great. But so I was in there, and he has a private group, Facebook group. So I go in there, I interact, probably not as much as I should. I should interact more. But I made connections. I made numerous connections, just even at the amount of the level that I was interacting with it. And the other night, someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, how's your project going?" And I was working on a funnel stack where I had multiple funnels connected together, or part sales, part lead, part webinar. It had a progression going from people coming into my funnel ecosystem, and by the time they ended, they were heading to my webinar type of thing. And I said pretty good, and so I ended up having a text discussion with this young woman, and now she's like, can I stay in touch with you? I've learned some stuff from you. I think this would be great. And I said, yeah, sure, of course. So it's fun. It's, to your point, Chris. It's so important to make those connections.
And without any expectations, like, don't go into it trying to sell yourself, because people can see through that. But if you're just genuine and that you're offering information based on what you do, people that will go a long way.
Yeah, asking. It's funny too. It's like, I agree 150% with you on that, because there's some people that don't get it, and they'll just post and say, hey, cheap residential electric. It's like,
Right.
yeah, who cares,
It's like
right?
those people who come into a networking meeting, and they just, talk to everybody, hand everybody their card, and all those cards end up in the trash, and it does them no good. Meanwhile, that other person came in, maybe only talked to 3 or 4 people, but they had good, meaningful conversations with those 3 or 4 people. And maybe 2 of those people end up reaching out afterwards, and one of them turns into a client who got more out of that networking event.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% true. And it's funny that just engaging and chatting, and it's the same thing with what you do when you do your email campaigns too, right? You do an email campaign, it can't be every email is about buy my product. You have to have engagement and education in a lot of what you do, and that those both equal value. So if you're providing value to your email list, they're gonna continue to subscribe. I did a list where I had people come in, and it was a 30-day list. And I know people are like, "Oh, I can't send an email out every day." It says, "Of course you can." It doesn't mean you have to do it every day for 365 days a year, but let's just say you have a lengthy one, right? I sent one out every day. I had like 500 people subscribe, and I think 10 or 12 people unsubscribe. So the rest of those people hung in there for every single one of those emails. And those are the people you want to engage with for whatever you're trying to do. So videos about, how to do certain things, how to use tools, discussions about tips on marketing, on and off. There's a call to action here and there, both passive and active over 30 days, but mostly it's value.
Right.
And people like that.
And
Absolutely. You are speaking our language, Paul. I knew there was a reason we came on here. This is this is like,
Well, I love it when people compliment me, so I think we should have a talk every week.
and
yeah,
consistency too is whatever you do. Make sure you're doing it in a consistent way. If you intend on putting out content once a week, then once a week, once a month. Doesn't matter what the consistency is. Just have that consistency. Because I notice a lot of people come out of the gate and they'll put out four podcasts, video, audio, and then go silent for 6 months. And all that
Right.
engagement goes away. So a more moderated approach where you put out even just a little something on a regular basis, and then people know that it's coming and can kind of count on it, and then that builds the trust as well.
Right. And that works for everything. It works for email campaigns as well as podcasts, as well as your YouTube channel. I mean, it's all under the same, auspices of the same, framework you just said. You got to be consistent and you have to do it in a certain way. Like lately I've been I have a lot of interviews actually. I've had so many people request for interviews. So now it's like I'm putting out more than I used to. But generally speaking, my model is Fridays at 9 a.m. and I like to record them beforehand on Anchor and schedule them to be released at 9 a.m. on Friday. And it works really well. People understand it's consistent. They listen. They know that it's going to be there. So yeah, 100%. But hey, listen, before we wrap up, I want to do two things. I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask me any questions if you have any. But I also, before we wrap up, I want to circle back and give you guys an opportunity to, give me an idea how people can contact you. What are your favorite methods of being contacted? Phone, website, chat, wherever, or all the above. So let's start with questions. You guys have any questions for me?
all right. I got one for you.
Absolutely.
Who has been your favorite client that you've ever worked with at Brady Consulting?
Gee, that's a tough one.
You didn't expect an easy one, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't think it would be that hard. That's actually a hard question because I've had a lot of really good clients. You know what? I can tell you. I can tell you right now. My favorite is my current client. But honestly, it's a great project, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And so when I go into any amount of work I do, I love collaborating. I love talking. I love, helping people and figuring stuff out and having fun. So these two particular people are in the health and wellness niche, and we're going to have a blast because the three of us are positive, chatty, collaborative. You're not afraid to, dig deep and do the hard work, but also have fun at the same time. And so, and not only that, but they're doing a kind of a more challenging funnel stack, which is good for me. It's not just like a lead thing. And listen, I'm happy doing lead gen campaigns all day long, but this is a funnel stack where we're doing a lead gen campaign that stacks up to a challenge funnel for weight loss that stacks up to a video sales letter funnel for a program that once you lose the weight, how do you keep it off? Kind of a psychological examination and work with someone once they lose the weight. So it's the subject matter is fascinating. The amount of work is really cool and challenging, and they're good people.
That's fantastic. Do you
Yeah,
have
yeah, I love it.
I have a question. So here's my question for you, Paul. What would you
Sure.
say the one piece of advice for anyone who's wanting to market their product or service is? What would you consider the most and one important piece of advice for them just to consider before they start planning their marketing strategy?
The money's in the list. You have to have an email list. You cannot ignore an email list. Everything that everyone does to build their client base, whether it's through BNI or anything else, you're ultimately getting what? You're getting an email address. You're getting a way to contact those people. Sometimes it's cell phone. More often than not, it's email. And the reason for that is that once you have their email, you own that traffic and you can go back to them and you can dip in that same well over and over and over again. So you think about the amount of money you might spend, even on BNI. BNI is a cost, right? BNI is like $1,200 or something a year, I think, right? Depending on, the different
Well,
fees.
either way, I look at it as an investment, and I think the smart business owner says, "Hey, I'm investing my 1,200 this year."
Oh, absolutely. No disrespect meant to BNI. I think that the advertising on Google and Facebook is an investment as well. So I agree. BNI is very valuable. But all I'm saying is that, um, the difference between paying to have something like that and then being able to go back to it over and over. Like, let's say, for instance, you leave BNI for whatever reason, or BNI closes. I know, unlikely. But worst case scenario, right? You don't want your contact with all those people to disappear.
Right.
So you have their emails, you have their phones, you have all these things, right? Well, that's why building a mailing list is you have that capability to go back to those people over and over. And I'll tell you a real quick story um, that I love to tell to people because it's something that happened to me, and it would seem unlikely, but it's true, and it's what good copywriting and an email list will do for you. So I have a product, and this is going back. I've owned PCs and Macs, but I've owned both. I've had Macs that go back way back to a new bus backplane, if you understand what that means, Chris.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So very, very old, right? And I had this product that went way back, and it was just, kind of a cool little product that allows you to easily create images without using Photoshop, and, very cool graphics. They gave a whole library of graphics that weren't cheesy like PowerPoint or other things. So you're able to create these really cool logos or really cool, banners for your Facebook or anything, right? So I love that tool. And over time, I lost track with it. I upgraded my Macs, I upgraded the OS, and the product, it just disappeared. I wasn't using it anymore, and the one I had didn't work in the new OS. So I said, oh well, and I moved on. Well, literally, I'm not kidding. About 10 or 15 years later, they were back, and I started getting emails from them, and I have had the same email address one way or another for a long time. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, where do I know these guys from? I know these guys, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, they sent me that thing. And I didn't really do much on it. It kind of jarred my memory. Okay. But it was an email campaign. Then I got another email, and then another one. Then I got one that had a video, and I said, hey, watch how we do this. And I said, okay, I'm kind of interested. So I clicked on it, and then it jarred my memory. I said, I remember why I love these guys. They have these really cool graphics, and I can do it super easy. So I looked at it. I looked at the price, bought it, the tool again for the latest OS. And then they turned around and started upselling me. And I actually bought one of the upsells too, because it gave you all these extra packages of images and graphics and, fancy lettering and font, all this cool stuff, right? And the long and the short here of the story is that they had a mailing list, and somewhere along the way, someone fell asleep at the wheel. They never did anything with their mailing list. But someone came back and said, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we sending emails out? These are clients. They're just sitting there. And so they started sending emails out again. And I think the first one I got was something like Remember Us, something like that, which, by the way, very, very smart move, because even leaving an email list dormant for 6 months, there's a higher probability people will unsubscribe if they get an email out of the blue and they don't remember who you are. Right. That's really, really important thing about emails. Either you have to say, sorry, I took a break, or something that'll get their attention, and then say, you subscribe to this list, and just to make sure they don't think that it's spam. And you do that. Right. But anyways, long and the short of it is that it works. It really works. And they had an email list. And that was so long ago. I think it was even before Facebook or something. I don't know how long Facebook's been around. I think only till 2002. So maybe it didn't predate Facebook arriving on the scene. But I don't think I used Facebook back in those days. I think I used something called Friendster.
Oh, I remember Friendster.
You remember Friendster?
Oh, yeah.
Were you dialing up through AOL on this one, Paul?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I used AOL at one point too. Yeah.
MySpace was another one that, thought it was going to be so big. I think Fox bought it for some huge amount of money, and then it just,
it died. I know. It's hilarious when big tech buys something 10 years after it's like obsolete. But anyways, that was my only point, guys, is that
good point.
Mail is very, very important.
And you were a customer. You were their customer. That if you hadn't gotten that email, you would not have known they were back, and you would not have known that product was out there for you, and you ended up buying it again and buying something else. So
Yeah,
it
I
definitely
couldn't even remember the name of the product until I saw it. And then I was like, I kind of recognized it, which was also smart on their part. I think they kept the logo the same. And then I said, oh, yeah, yeah. But yeah, absolutely true. So yeah, I've so enjoyed talking to you guys. I just want to give you an opportunity. Tell us how people can contact you if they want to get a hold of you.
I'm saying don't contact us, contact Paul Brady. Paul Brady's the person to be contacting. I've learned so much today. Go to www.bradyconsult.com.
Oh, you are so funny. You actually looked that up.
I'm like, you know what? I've learned so much today, Paul. You've been a fountain of knowledge. It's also been fun. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been a huge pleasure on my part talking to both of you.
If, however, you do want to contact Chris and myself, real simple. We run presence training and coaching 2 ways. Go to our website, presence, PRSENCETC.com, presencetc.com. Or we're a pair of Gen Xers that are pretty hip with the kids today. So we also have an Instagram account, and that is presence_TC. And you can reach us there, and you can even message us there if you want to be super hip, if Instagram's your thing. So that is how you can reach us, but definitely go to Paul's site, check him out, check his stuff out, because I've learned a ton, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. And I will definitely, just to prove I'm hip, I'll send you a message on Instagram. I'll join you over there.
Great.
Thank you, Paul. This has been a lot of fun.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This has been Express Leads, hosted by Paul Brady of Brady Consulting and Inbound Marketing. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to leave us a voice message by visiting anchor.fm/expressleads. Thank you.